The elevator doors open and he drops her. She falls to her knees, and then to the floor, but her feet prevent the doors from closing. The man is holding the woman's purse as he tries to move her unconscious body out of the way using his feet, but she won't budge. He tries picking her up again, but unconscious bodies can be heavy, even for a 5'8", 208-pound running back in the National Football League. Then the video ends. That video, showing the aftermath of an altercation between Ray Rice and his then-girlfriend now wife Janay Palmer, made the rounds this NFL offseason as if it were a Zapruder film. Prompted by the video and unrest, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell suspended Rice, the star running back for the Baltimore Ravens, for 2 games, citing personal interviews with Rice and Palmer and the league's personal conduct policy. But the punishment felt incommensurate with the crime. "It's a joke, and a bad one," ESPN columnist Jane McManus wrote. "How was it possible that Rice was given 2 games, many exclaimed, when players had been suspended 6 games for cheating on a test for performance-enhancing drugs PEDs and entire seasons for repeatedly smoking marijuana? We can't just make up the discipline," Goodell said at a press conference after issuing Rice's suspension. "It has to be consistent with other cases, and it was consistent with other cases." On Thursday, Goodell announced a new discipline policy. In a letter to all 32 team owners obtained by ESPN, Goodell wrote that the league fell short in its treatment of the Rice case. Effective immediately, violations of the personal conduct policy regarding assault, battery, domestic violence or sexual assault that involve physical force will be subject to a suspension without pay of 6 games for a first offense, with consideration given to mitigating factors, as well as a longer suspension when circumstances warrant. This will not affect Rice's current suspension. A second offense will result in a ban from the league, with the opportunity to apply for reinstatement after 1 year. A 6-game suspension, according to data collected by 538, would be 4 times what the average suspension has been for domestic violence and an unprecedented consequence for a first offense of any kind. The ban from the league after a repeat offense would be the harshest punishment for all second-time offenders. Following the Rice incident, I went looking for every NFL suspension one issued in the league's 94-year history. I wanted to understand how violations like Rice's, the ones unrelated to steroid or substance abuse, were determined. If domestic abuse warranted 2 games, what kinds of conduct violations warranted 5 games, 8 games, an entire season? I assumed that someone, if not the governing body itself, must keep track of every player suspended, why he was suspended, and the length of the suspension. I was wrong. When I contacted the NFL, a spokeswoman, Darlene Capero, responded by email, "We do not have a comprehensive list." Several of my colleagues at ESPN and Grantland who report on the NFL were unaware of any complete dataset. The ESPN Stats and Information Group also did not have this information in its entirety, only selected incidents. A spokesman for the NFL Players Association, George Goodell, said the union had at least some of the data but did not provide it after repeated requests. "And so I cobbled it together myself, with the help of the San Diego Union Tribune's NFL Rests database, the Wikipedia list dating back to 1947, and the SpotTrack suspension tracker. I found 263 incidents in that process, and verified suspensions using news reports 3 while making note of the reason for the suspension and the number of games the player ultimately missed. For the data isn't perfect, but it's a good start. Once I'd categorized the offenses and the corresponding games missed, I had hard evidence of what many already suspected. The NFL's punishment of personal conduct violations has been inconsistent and on average less harsh than its punishment of drug offenses.